Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here today. If you will, again, I'll ask you to like, share, comment on the post, and then you can join me if you like in the first chapter of the book of Genesis as we continue to walk through these days of creation. Today we get to the sixth day here in verse number 24. We'll be looking, verse 25. We'll be looking at these two verses, and we're going to cover, unlike before, we're going to cover half of day 6 today, and then we'll look at the second half tomorrow. And so verse 25 says, And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kind, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And so he creates here, he begins creating, again, the remainder of what will be necessary to sustain life. Verse 26, he says, Then God said, Let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So again, we have creation coming to its climax here as God creates all the, calls here the beast of the earth, everything that creeps on the ground, livestock, creeping things. Beast is what verse 24 says. And so we have these three broad classifications of creation, of the animals that were placed on the earth. There's a couple things here that are, I think, interesting and important in these verses. You'll notice if you look back that we have a change of terminology. In these first 5 days, God has created. But here on this day, it says God made. And the implication, I believe, is that that God has that there is more care, more creating a higher level of being at this point, culminating ultimately in the creation of man. And so that's one thing that stands out to me in these verses. Second of all, it is clearly, it says, Let us bring forth these creatures according to their kinds. I'm starting in verse 24 here, according to their kinds. And so it was. And verse 25, and he made the beast according to their kind, the livestock according to their kind, and everything that creepeth on the ground according to its kind. God clearly distinguishes here between the various elements of creation, and in doing so, I think one of the things that that is saying is it flies in the face of this idea of evolution. That if you've ever maybe seen one of those charts where that it has, kind of the man moving, the creation moving up, and you kind of have this hunched over gorilla looking thing, and eventually it comes up and it stands up, the pictures move across. That's not what God says happened. God says he created them according to their kind. These kinds didn't cross over to make some other entity, some other creature. God created each one according to its kind. He made the cattle, he made the beast, he made the creeping things, each one of them. And typically when you hear the story of evolution, it generally starts somewhere with the idea of the creeping things evolving into the walking things. That's not a scientific term, but here clearly God says, no, I made each one of these kinds, and I created them, and I established them, and I set up this system, and I laid it out. All ultimately, we see when he gets to the end here in verse 26, all of that being done so that man ultimately being the apex, the pinnacle of that creation that he made here, and so he is creating these things. One other thing that's distinct here in this in these stories is that in the past it says God spoke and those things sprung into being. And kind of along what I've already said here, he spoke and those things came into being. Here he made. Again, it just gives the idea of greater care, greater importance being placed on these beings, and that he was placing them there. And again, all of these things just pointing out and reminding us again of each individual item that God carefully put into existence, all of it leading up to the day when he would create man and place man in the midst of all of these things that he has created. And as I think about that, it just brings into my mind that we have an organized, orderly, planning God. That God has a plan, and He's had a plan since day one. Here we are, we're on day 6, but He's had a plan all along. He had a plan every day of creation, and He has a plan for you and I. Just as much as he planned out how, again, he didn't create man until the final thing, once he had everything else in place. Had he created man first, that would have been a problem. Man wouldn't have any land to stand on, any food to eat. But here he creates all these things. He has an organized, set up plan for how he's going to do things. And God has a will for your life. I've heard it explained this way. I want you to think about this. God has a general will and God has a specific will. The general will includes things like the Bible would talk about, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. That's the general will of God. That's the plan of God for everyone. But then I believe God has a specific will for your life, that He has a plan individually for you, how He wants to use you, how He wants to be involved in your life. And our goal, in as long as we draw breath, should be to find that will and to do that will. We see in creation from day one, God's been planning. And I believe God's planning for you. What a wonderful thought. You think about it. You have a good day. We will see you here tomorrow morning.